I find it very hard to like offer blanket advice without having a conversation with you, whoever you are on the other side of this video, because there isn't universal advice. There's this thing where somehow professors feel like it's our job to like decide who's cut out for mathematics and who's not. And too many people that I know have had to hear a professor saying, you know what, you're never gonna achieve this, or you don't have what it takes to do this. And you know what, you don't know that. You don't know who this person is. You don't know their story. You don't know what's going on in their life. And that I feel is pretty universal advice to faculties. Just don't do that. You don't know the person you're talking to. And if you're a student and you hear that kind of advice, try to see what there is to be learned from it, but don't listen to it. You know, take what's useful and then know that this person doesn't know you. Maybe I'll just tell you two stories of my trajectory that I think have taught me something. When I applied to college, I was actually failing almost every subject. And when it came time to apply for colleges, one of my friends said, "Hey, there's this school that in the US that is really good at science and they have really good financial aid." And he really wanted to apply, and so he convinced me to apply, and I had never heard of this place. And in the end, I ended up getting in, and this was MIT. And it's interesting because I had never heard of MIT, and I think if I knew that MIT was this like very prestigious place, I would have known that, of course, they weren't going to admit me because I was failing almost everything. And I think in that case, my ignorance helped me to not close that door myself, because I think if I had known, I wouldn't have applied. And so this is one thing that I think I've learned from that, is just like, you know, it's not for you to close doors for yourself, because there's plenty of people and plenty of structures that are going to close doors on you, and you cannot be one of them. Your job is to open the door and then try to push as hard as you can and see if you're able to get in. And I think the other thing is that when I got to MIT, it was interesting just getting there and just finding it to be such a cultural clash with who I was and where I came from, and just like what were my values. And so there was kind of an ideological clash with the place, but more than anything, a cultural clash. And one thing is just that there was just this complete obsession with work. There was this glorification of like, oh, I haven't slept in 3 days because I've been doing my homework. I was not going to do that, and I think that if I had gone that route, it would have just been. I don't think I had the language for like understanding that this would be a disaster for my mental health, and that just wouldn't have worked. Somehow it was important for me to like, play football like every night. And I joke that I did my PhD in salsa because I was obsessed with like, I've always, Colombians, they love salsa, and I was obsessed, and I spent a lot of time doing that. And that's when I started DJing and playing music. And all of that to say that I think for me, it's work to try to understand what is my own path. And that doesn't mean to be completely stubborn and not understand what are the realities that you're facing. And it's a little bit of that play the game thing. Like you gotta know how to play the game and also jump through the hoops. But I think it's also important to know that you have to find your way of doing things, and sometimes just because everybody else is doing things in a certain way doesn't mean that has to work for you, and that's okay.